Hey everybody, this is the Sliders Review, and I'm here today to talk to you about Spider-Man, the animated series, Season 1, Episode 1, Night of the Living Lizard. Spider-Man, the animated series, is my all-time favorite Spider-Man cartoon series. It came out when I was a kid, out on Fox Kids, and like I remember just being like so like, oh my god, when it first came out, because like it wasn't the first Spider-Man cartoon I ever seen. I seen something like a video back in the days, like in the 80s, an older Spider-Man cartoon. I'm not sure which one it was. Um but I remember he snuck into some type of like military base or something like that. And so, like, when it comes to Spider-Man the animated series, the only place you're gonna be able to find it is Disney Plus, because they just don't have it no more. And they have a few episodes out on DVD. Now, what's really messed up is that Germany has the completed series on DVD. Why can't we? It was an American cartoon. It was made over here. Why can't we have it like on the entire thing on DVD? I don't understand that whatsoever. So this episode is very unique because the animation is drawn completely different than that of the rest of the series. The expressions on their faces are more expressionate. Now because they send it overseas, and overseas they make it. I'm not sure which overseas company did it. Most likely Japan. But it could have been any place else, because like during the Fox Kids era, during the Fantastic Four season 2, they had a Filipino company do it. I really love that animation company that did that one. That was some nice animation. I think they're shut down now. But anyways, this entails, of course, the lizard, Dr. Kurt Connors. Um, we see two subway workers. They're down underneath in the sewers. They're talking about like, how one of them used to be a TV executive producer and stuff like that, but now he works down in the sewers. Okay. And so like all of a sudden, like they hear like a strange noise, and something spooks them. They're screaming, they're hollering. It's like a giant lizard man. And so they're running, they're trying to escape, but one of them gets caught and dragged back down the sewers. The other one hops in the car and he speeds off. And so Spider-Man sees this as he's like perched on top of a rooftop, right? And so he swings down and he tries to save the man. The man car is kind of like out of control. And so he saves the man right before the man is about to like fall to his death and everything. What's so great about this is that it's old school like web slinging. It's slowed down so you can see it and like admire it for what it is. There's all kind of like quick like banter and quips from like Spider-Man. He's constantly just making fun of this dude as he's like saving his life. And that's a classic Spider-Man thing to do from the comics. And it's funny when it comes to live action, not every Spider-Man director gets it right. They only give certain personality traits to Peter. And like the most quippy of them all is probably the Andrew Garfield one. His was the only one that felt like this cartoon series. Um, as for Holland, he's just wacky for some reason. And when it comes to the Sam Raimi one, the Tobey Maguire one, Peter Parker was just like he was just a nerd while all this comedic stuff happened to him, more like slapstick humor than him being like funny and stuff. And so like the dude tells him it's a giant lizard man down in the sewers, and Spider-Man's still just making fun of him like, yeah, right, and everything. And so when he heads over to work, they show him as a photographer. What's really great is that, there's JJ's there, Mr. Robertson's there, and then they set up the whole Eddie Brock thing really early on in the first episode, so you know who he is and stuff and the type of person he is. So when he turns into Venom, it won't just be like, oh well, who's this person, kind of like the Sam Raimi one. However, in the very first Spider-Man movie, if you miss it, they mention Brock, but they don't do nothing after that. They mention his name. And so like JJ's all like, he does his typical loudmouth insulting thing, played by the great late Ed Eisner. Um, and so he's telling Parker how he wants him to get like photographs of like this giant lizard man and stuff like that. And so something happened. I forgot. They mentioned Kurt Connors. I think he's supposed to be like an expert and stuff like that. And so he gives the job first to Eddie. But then Parker's all like, oh, well, I know Kurt Connors and everything. He's a respectable man and blah, 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 blah. And he was like my teacher and stuff like that. So JJ gives the job to Parker instead of Brock, which kind of upsets Brock and everything. But JJ's all like, well, he already knows the man and stuff like that, and plus he knows stuff about science, and you don't. So like, Brock's not gonna let this just like sit down and settle. You know what I'm saying? He's gonna do something about that. So like he tells Parker and everything, like whoever gets a picture of like the lizard dude gets like $1,000 reward. So of course, Parker's all for that. So he turns into Spider-Man and he goes down the sewer and he's looking for it. And while he's down there in the sewer, he's talking to himself, which is such a Spider-Man thing to do that you don't never really see too much in the live action movies. And he's just having a normal conversation with himself, almost like he's nuts in the head. And like he's talking about, he throws out some really cool Easter eggs of superheroes, talking about how you never see the Avengers or the Defenders or the Fantastic Four down the sewers. And he's all like, maybe the Hulk. So yeah, those characters do exist in his universe, and we meet some of them later on in the series. So that's great. And then while he's down there, it's shown that his stickiness to walls doesn't happen if there's like some slimy stuff there and he falls off and hits down in the sewer water, which is so disgusting and nasty. And so he takes the picture of a giant like foot of a lizard, and then he takes it to the university to show the Kurt Connors and stuff. And there he meets Deborah Whitman, which is from the comics. And so she's like this nerdy girl who all into science, and she kind of like pokes fun at Parker every now and then. When they go to see Dr. Kurt Connors, some weird stuff starts to happen. So like the lights turn out, it's raining, he's spooked and his spider sense is going off. He knows something's wrong. And so like he heads on over to, well, him and Deborah head on over to Kurt Connor's office. And then so like when they're there, they can't see who it is, but it's a giant man there and he's rapping something. We don't know what this thing he's rapping just yet, but we'll find out later on. So they think it's a person. So Deborah, being like, the intuitive person that she is, she walks on over there. The person scares her, and like he jumps out the window, telling her to stay back. Like he doesn't want to hurt her. And then Parker does something really cool. He runs over, he leaps up to the window, and he grabs the bottom of his shirt and he lifts it up, and you see the Spider-Man costume underneath. That is such a cool reveal. It made it into like the intro and everything. Speaking of the intro, this has one of the best intros I've ever seen. The great electrical music, all the like, cool like imagery and stuff. It's quite a shame that in the Disney Plus thing, they only have the intro to the later seasons, not the actual original one from the first one. And so like what is it? So like Deborah, he's about to go out there and expose and stuff, but Deborah's all like, Peter, I'm scared and all this other stuff, so he stays with her. I wish Sam Raimi would have done this, his Spider-Man. Instead, he did the Superman, about the transform pose and everything. It would have been so much greater. He just would have been perched there and lift his shirt up. That would have been so much more awesome. And so before he leaves there, Deborah told him straight up that she thinks that whatever this lizard thing that he has a foot picture of, right, it has to be something that walks on two legs. But he's like all in denial. He doesn't want her to like snoop into it anymore. Now when it comes to this Spider-Man, it's shown that he did get bit as a teenager and stuff, But one cool thing is that this Spider-Man, we also see him in this episode stop like I think like some grocery robbers or something like that. So he's your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, and that's always great to see. Something I love seeing in the live action movies that don't happen all that often. They normally happen like very quickly or for comedic relief and stuff. And that's the one thing that makes Spider-Man so different from everybody else. And one reason why he's like my favorite when it comes to like Marvel is that he's not just a person who goes after the superheroes. He goes, I mean, the super villains. He goes after like the regular villains too, cause he knows that they can harm folks. That's something that Tom Holland Spider-Man doesn't really do that much no more. Like we saw him stop some bank robbers and stuff, or somebody, but I think they were pretty like equipped with stuff, you know. What also makes this Spider-Man so great is his Aunt May, a traditional Aunt May. Like the old, like really old woman who can't like defend herself, stuff like that, you know. There is a scene in this where Parker is walking home and he's thinking to himself when he has the photograph, like what's he's gonna spend this $1,000 on when he gets a picture of like the lizard and stuff. And he's all like, I could probably buy a motorcycle, a car, or something like that, you know. And then when he goes home, he sees that there are these unpaid bills. And he realizes Aunt May needs him because she sacrificed so much to take care of him. And Uncle Ben's not there. That's one thing I love. Like that's something that was really great about the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies. They showed that a lot. And you kind of didn't really get a sense of that in all the other Spider-Man things because in the Amazing Spider-Man, that Aunt May still went to work. And with, of course, the MCU one, she's like super young and like works and stuff like that. Even in animation, they don't always get it right no more. Like in the Ultimate Spider-Man, she was like older, but kind of like hot older. But I don't know if she had, I think she had a job too. Not really sure. And I know like in Spectacular Spider-Man she was older looking too, but still look youthful and everything. And she's never looked old until like, you know, the Amazing Spider-Man and the older Spider-Man cartoons. And so like he goes on over to Kurt Connor's home, right? Because after that whole like break in his office, he needs to see if he's okay and everything. And while he's swinging there, he starts to hear a commotion. So he's swinging as fast as he can, and it's such some of the greatest acrobatics you can see. That's why I love the animation. They slow it down so you can see every little morsel and detail of it. Which in the movies, you know, they speed it up, but it still looks cool. But it's just sped up. And so when he's there, he sees that his wife is talking to somebody, a giant lizard man. And she's talking about like, you know, trying to like tell him like think about our son and this and that and blah blah blah. And next thing you know, Spider-Man busts in and tries to fight the dude, but he can't. They take it outside. And then the lizard dude gets away. And so like he heads back to the house to talk to like Dr. Kurt Connor's wife. And of course, Eddie Brock, he had the same idea. So he went over there and he's spying and everything. So next thing you know, like Dr. Kurt Connor's wife tells him straight up like what happened and everything. We get some flashbacks of pretty much what happened is Kurt lost his arm a long time ago. And him and Parker was working on experiments to see if like lizard DNA can like, you know, regrow human flesh. Now we saw this flashback earlier in the episode when Parker reminiscing about Dr. Kurt Connors. That's what I love about the show, the flashbacks and everything. And so like so then when he leaves to go look for the lizard, no, he hears something. It's Brock. Brock overhears this and gonna go tell Jonah Jameson. So Spider-Man webs him up and hangs him like on a pole. And this is what starts like Eddie's hatred of Spider-Man. He leaves him there in the rain and he's all like, you know, don't worry, man, this will like, the webbing will like degrade in a couple hours. Also, I love that. I love that they gave detail that his webbing degrades in a couple hours and doesn't just stay there. We never hear this from none of the live action stuff. And so he hears like a scream. He heads back to like the house and the wife is now gone and the son is there. So he takes the son to like neighbors and he heads down into the sewers to confront the lizard. And at this point in time, he even tells himself he's worried. And not only he worried, because this lizard can rip him like limb to limb, but he blames himself. He's the one who helped the doctor formalize this experiment and like make it to the point where it can actually work. Now, something like this happens similar in the Amazing Spider-Man, where he helps him too. But the difference between there is that Parker and that Kurt Connors, they didn't know each other before Peter like snuck in. So that robs them of that bond. Also, there's no Billy. They had a deleted scene with Billy, and there's no family. And it's just kind of like, why didn't Mark Webb just add that in there? It would have added another layer of like humanness to like the lizard. So Peter, he overhears like the lizard. Also, he has a little flashlight thing in his belt buckle, which is kind of cool. And in Spectacular Spider-Man, they added a face to it. So like he overhears the lizard tell his wife what he wants to do with the Neogenesis Recombinator. It gets introduced in the first episode, and it plays a pivotal role in this entire series. He wants to like have every human in the world be like him, a lizard, so they can heal their wounds and everything. He believes that lizards are like the superior like creature, and he will be like their ruler in a new like species that he creates. And she tells him, well, if you're so perfect, why do you need my hands to like work the machine and stuff? Therefore, he's not perfect. Oh, there's something I forgot to mention. So the lizard mentions to her that he needs her fingers to like work the machine, because his can't, because they're claws now. Also, he had this worker from the subway worker doing it, but he got tired and stuff. And so that's when she tells him, if you're so perfect and everything in this new world order, then why you need people fingers to work things? See, earlier when Spider-Man was going down the sewers looking for Mrs. Connors, he finds the subway worker dude, and the dude's like terrified, talking about how he was working on like the machine and everything like that, but like he got tired, lack of food and stuff like that. And so Spider-Man leaves him to go find like the lizard. And so like when and then so his wife tells him, think about your son, think about Billy, do you want him in this new world order? And then he gets sad and he starts thinking about Billy until Spider-Man shows up. Then he gets angry. The lizard DNA in him turned him savage. So him and Spider-Man have this amazing battle and everything. And it's so great. Spider-Man flipping around, webbing him. And then we see like the lizard actually uses his tail in a very powerful way. His tail is so powerful, it's able to bust through like a brick concrete wall. This is something we didn't even see in the Amazing Spider-Man. It makes you wonder. Mark Webb, I will give Mark Webb credit. The Amazing Spider-Man 1 was a pretty good movie. It could have been better. I did not like the fight ending scene between him and Spider-Man, because like it was just a rehash of Spider-Man 1 from Sam Raimi, with him swinging around and the townspeople helping out. It's almost like either Mark Webb didn't know what to do, or the studio told him just emulate what you see in like the Sam Raimi movie. But yeah, the battle in this cartoon is so much better. And so his wife tries to get the machine, and then the lizard sees that and attacks her. So Spider-Man attacks him. And then they both fall into like the water, the nasty sewer water with the Neogenesis Recombinator. His wife is just watching from above, and you see Spider-Man and the lizard just struggling underneath water, and the waves are like crashing and the bubbles are going up, and it's just like a great like animation. And then Spider-Man, he's monologuing to himself, narrating and stuff about how like he can't believe him and his friend, his mentor, are like going through this and everything, having to fight each other to like to the bitter end and everything. And that's so great. That's something you never see in none of the live action Spider-Man movies. Then while he's doing that, he's playing around with the machine, and then he hits the button, and it's this beautiful glow of light, and both Spider-Man and the lizard they like freeze as the light surging through their body, and it's just a great visual that we didn't get to see in the Amazing Spider-Man. And I remember when I saw this, I'm thinking to myself, oh my god, did Spider-Man just lose his powers? Because he set the thing to, like, the cure those with like the the mutated like properties and stuff. I'm thinking to myself, oh no. So then we see Brock, and we see JJ heading to Kurt Connor's house, cause Brock is all like, the lizard is Kurt Connors and blah blah blah, like the next morning and stuff, and JJ's all like, you better not be taking me on no wild goose chase and everything. He's all like, look man, if I'm lying, I'll eat this newspaper and stuff. And the next thing you know, you see Kurt Connors in his human form, saying hey to JJ and everything. So he asked Brock, do you want that? I forgot what he asked that he want to eat his paper with. But then it ends with Spider-Man talking about how he did like a good thing and reunited Kirk with his family. And we see him just swinging off as the show ends. And that's great, because that's something you see like in the first two, the Sam Raimi and the Mark Webb movies at the end, you know what I'm saying? Where it's like Spider-Man is just like swinging through the city, so beautiful. Like, I love that. And, and it's just, it ends. And this is why I love this show, man. It's great. It gets right to the point. It gets right to the action. You get some nice drama. You get some nice, like, humor and stuff. It's just, like, perfect. It's not weighed down. It's not weighed down by drama like all these new cartoons are. Alrighty, well, I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.